Good morning to all my friends and family, and welcome to this episode of Jim's 5am Club. I'm down here at Circular Quay at the International Passenger Terminal, and it's a brilliant, spectacular Sydney spring morning. As you can see, hardly any breeze, and it's a awesome day. Look at that sunrise, simply sublime. Anyway, what I want to do today, like I normally do every single day, is deliver yet another book summary on this YouTube channel that I've developed, where we can share OPE, other people's experiences, in the form of book summaries and in the form of life experiences, and see if we can incorporate some of those learnings into our lives to help us all build and craft a better life. It's another mild day here in Sydney, not as hot as what it was yesterday, and today what I'd love to do is go through this book that I've just reviewed, how to read online, the book summary that is. And it's a book entitled, it's got a beautiful title, A Life Worth Living, by an author named Miroslav Volf. So this book, I guess, is all about the philosophies of life, those big questions that we need to ask and have answered within our lifetimes. And there's a call to action for everybody to keep pursuing the key questions, keep trying to find the answer to the key questions, and to understand that everybody's life is very different and unique. The ideal life for me may not necessarily be the ideal life for you. We all have different lives. We've all lived a different past. We are living a different present. I am here, you are somewhere else, and we're all most certainly going to live a different future. So the key message from many books that I read is the sheer understanding, appreciation, and welcoming of the fact that we are all different from each other. But not only are we different from each other, we are different for each other. And the experiences, the slithers of reality that we accumulate throughout our lives is unique to each person. We all have different slithers of reality that we get to experience from day to day. We have different meaning that we place and attach to those different slithers, and hence our worldview is heavily influenced, coloured and shaped by those meanings that we attach to the experiences that we enjoy in our lives. So the author here encourages us to keep pursuing the question, life for what matters most, and to understand that everybody's life, whilst different, is worth it, because it's the only expression and the only unique expression of that person's life. Nobody else is going to live the same life as you. Nobody else is going to live or experience the same life that I'm going to experience. So it's up to us to appreciate the gift from God that we have, and to make the most of it while we can, and to enjoy every moment along the road. So this book, this course, is aimed at equipping students with the intellectual tools to reflect on and answer life's biggest questions. And I like the way he says that it provides us with intellectual tools to enable us to enjoy, to understand, to appreciate, and to embrace what we have, rather than to think that we don't have any control. Everybody has tremendous control over their lives in terms of not only what happens to them, but more importantly, how they interpret what happens to them, so that they can make powerful or achieve powerful results through trying to understand it a little bit better. So the author then kicks off the book here with a deep dive into chat about how people interact with life. And he says that most people in general interact with life at 4 different levels. There are 4 different levels that we interact with life. 4 different levels or layers he talks about, and finding true meaning requires us to go to the deepest layer. So what we're saying here is life is like an onion, or like some sort of layered piece of fruit, where the deeper you go, the more meaning you're able to achieve, and the sweeter the taste, and the more fulfilling the experience. And the author talks about the fact that when he was a young man, at 10 years of age, he went to the local pool with all the other kids to celebrate somebody's birthday, and he was unable to jump from the 10-metre tower like all the other children. But he gained a realization that the reason why he wasn't able to just jump from the 10-metre tower was that he hadn't first experienced the 1-metre tower, or the 1-metre diving board, and the 3-metre diving board. So in life, the profound sort of realization, the profound insight from this author is that we need to grow in steps. We need to progress through each of these layers. We need to descend through each of these layers and build the skills along the way. And the 4 layers, according to this author, layer number 1 is where we have autopilot, where we automatically do things based on our habits. Don't have to think about it. We just do it, and it comes naturally to us. And that's an easy sort of layer to appreciate and to understand. The second layer, according to this author, is called the effectiveness layers, or the effectiveness layer, effectiveness level, where we need to intellectually interrupt our habits when they're not helping, in order for us to progress through life and to achieve certain outcomes and things. So we need a little bit more energy. We need to be a little bit more focused in order to get things done, and to, I guess, lean just outside our comfort zones, and to do things which don't necessarily come naturally to us, but things that we're capable of doing, but we need to think about it, we need to plan, we need to strategize in order to make progress. The third layer, according to this author, is where we start to appreciate and accumulate a thing called self-awareness, where we're able to compare and contrast the outside world to our inside world and start to craft what we see as being our ideal life. We're able to, spend time crafting and identifying what our calling or callings are, and to live life on our terms, where we serve God through our heart, mind and soul, loving Him with every ounce of our being, serving Him with everything that we do, asking ourselves the question, is what I am doing now God pleasing? Am I serving God? And also ask yourself the question, am I loving my neighbour as I love myself? And it's important to realise that in order to love your neighbour, you first need to love yourself, where a lot of people just miss that step. You just can't love other people unless you first truly love God, and secondly, you first truly love yourself, respect yourself, set higher standards for yourself. So we need to be able to progress to those sorts of levels, and those levels require a certain amount of maturity and help for us to break through the limiting beliefs and limiting thoughts and the other forces that are working against us on a daily basis. And the last layer from this author is called self-transcendence, and really having a look and having a deep think about what is worth wanting, and understanding that we are all different, and what is worth wanting for me could be very different to what is worth wanting for my father, my mother, my parents, my uncles, my aunts, my forefathers, my social circle, my religious circle, my work buddies, my community, the media. It's all different. So, having said all of that, the key message from this author is that we need to learn to descend through these stages, through these levels, in order to appreciate our lives a little bit better. The next formal point to come from this book is where the author talks about the big question of life, and he says that it breaks down into 6 sub-questions, each of which offer plenty of food for thought. So the first question, and we've just harped upon this just a little bit earlier, is what is worth wanting in the first place? Now we need to align our vision to our values, to truth and what is right. Now, is what I'm doing God pleasing? Is what I'm doing allowing me to fully express the love that I have in my heart, and serving God and serving my neighbour, and allowing me to freely express who I am, what my calling is, and what value I want to give to the world. The other question that we have, the second question, is we need to understand and to appreciate, where are we starting from, and to understand that a long, healthy, happy life is not necessarily the be-all or end-all for everybody. We need to ask ourselves, is there more? Is there more than just being happy, healthy, and living a long life? The next question is a very, very deep question that comes from this author, where he asks a really, really deep question. And that question is, who do we answer to? And I lost both of my parents a number of years ago. And I remember waking up one day and asking this question, who do I answer to? Given that my mother, my father, the people who I held deeply in my heart were no longer around. And it's a question that I guess everybody needs to answer, I guess throughout their lives. Who do you answer to? And of course, the answers to those questions are unique to each person. But to a Christian, to a Greek Orthodox Christian such as myself, the answer is very, very simple. The person that we answer to is Jesus. And the second person that we answer to is ourselves. And as long as what we do, what we think, what we say, what we practice is aligned to serving God with all our heart, mind and soul, and supporting ourselves, loving ourselves and loving our neighbour, then that in itself is the answer, the powerful answer to this question. The fourth question here is something which is really special as well, and it's pretty well aligned to some of the things that were discussed at the UPW weekend, the Anthony Robbins Unleash the Power Within weekend. And you need to ask yourself the question, how does a good life, how does a great life actually feel? And the author here talks about the fact that it feels different for different people depending on their circumstances and what they're going through. And he says that Oscar Wilde, whilst in prison, thought that the most beautiful thing in the world is to have freedom and simplicity, especially during a time when freedom and simplicity is taken away from you, when you're imprisoned. And you can imprison yourself, of course, through your own challenges, your own problems, your own thoughts, your own limitations. So freedom and simplicity seem to be a theme of this book and something to talk about. And the author also talks about how Buddha talked about being or showing indifference to suffering rather than to try and eliminate it. Because at the end of the day, you can't eliminate pain and suffering in the world, in our lives. But I did learn a very powerful lesson from my late Auntie Angela, who had a medical condition for about 20 years called scleroderma, which made her skin dry up, and wherever there were knuckles and bones underneath, it would form lesions that would infect, and she'd be in tremendous pain. But because she was a devout and practicing Christian, I could see that even though she was experiencing discomfort and pain, she did not submit to suffering. And I learnt from my auntie that suffering, the experience of suffering, is optional to a person who sees purpose, sees meaning in their condition. And the real powerful point for me, the real profound moment, the real aha moment for me in this book is to learn that a good life does not necessarily mean an easy life. That is a powerful breakthrough. A good life does not mean an easy life. A lot of people seem to think or seem to try and achieve a good life through taking it easy, by not pushing themselves, by not growing, developing. But as we learned from Anthony Robbins in this 4-day program, that you need to continually grow and develop in order to feel fulfilled in your life. And today's 8 out of 10 is tomorrow's 6. And if you're not growing and developing, you're actually dying and falling away. So for the people who look for the easy road, for the easy life, they are setting themselves up for pain down the track. And I remember reading in a book a number of years ago, a wonderful book which I recommend to everybody, The Road Less Travelled by Scott Peck, where he said that if you want to have a fulfilled life, if you want to have a good life, then you need to take the tough road. You need to take the road that most people try to avoid, the road that has the ups, the downs, the challenges, the pain. But that's where you get the full experience. That's where you get the full Technicolor blockbuster in terms of your life. The fifth question from this author here is where he says that we need to ask ourselves, what should we hope for, and should our vision apply to everyone? And of course that question is different to everybody. You know, my ideal life, my religion, my beliefs, my faith, may be serving to me, but it may not serve other people. So I shouldn't be foisting my beliefs on other people. And as we appreciated and said before, each person is going to experience a different life, a different past, a different present, and a different future. And we're all different from each other, and most beautifully, we're different for each other. So by understanding that, we also need to understand that everybody has a unique and a different life. Everybody has their calling or callings, and everybody has their fate. So just because it didn't work for you doesn't necessarily mean it's not going to work for your children, and just because it's worked for you doesn't mean it's going to also work for your children. I think I said that again. Or it's not going to work for you. So each person has their fate, and you don't know what that fate is, but we need to keep on testing our fate where possible. And by testing our fate means that we need to have our goals, we need to be firm and hard-headed with our goals, but we need to vary our approach, we need to change our approach, because you just don't know when you knock on that door, when that door is going to open. But one thing for sure and for certain is that each path in life has a hump in it. Each path has a pothole or a barrier in it or across it. And we need momentum. We need to enter life with boldness and to do whatever we do with bold action, with love, with energy, so that we can get over those little bumps in the road, and to know that once you get over that little bump, you'll be able to build momentum to move further and further along that path, and to know that there's going to be less competition along the way, because most people will have given up at that first bump in the road, that first pothole, or that first barrier. So remembering that a lot of the fears that people experience are irrational fears. They're not real. You know, some people say 85% or 90 or 95 or 99% of all those things that you fear won't ever materialize, won't ever manifest themselves unless you manifest them and bring them forth in your own mind, knowing that where your focus goes, energy flows. So the last question that this author poses to us is, how should we live? Knowing very well that we're never going to have perfect certainty or control, but we do have the ingredients for a good life. We do have many philosophies in life, but philosophy in itself is not enough. the author here tells us that philosophy is just a way of thinking, and philosophy is just like an artist drawing water or painting water, and it looks beautiful, but it will never ever be able to quench the thirst of the people who are experiencing or watching or looking at that painting. Life needs to be experienced in full, and you can only experience life through fully indulging in your life and not just limiting yourself with philosophy, with talking about things, because some people can actually convince themselves that they've achieved all these things in their life and have done nothing. So we must take action, bold action, rather than to think and to talk about things and to be a gun of this and a gun of that. We need to do things and to not just sit there and plan and dream and imagine. There is a place for dreaming, imagining, talking and writing, but the bottom line is that you need to take action, you need to take bold action in order to experience a beautiful life. And by taking action, by taking bold action, that is when you experience real life feedback. It's really important to understand that it's only through taking action that it's only when you take action that life will feed back to you and give you an experience. And then with that experience, what you can do is you can adjust what you're doing to get more of it, to get less of it, but you need to be engaged in the real world, and the only way you can get engaged in the real world is by doing rather than just talking and imagining. The author also says that in order to be present in the real world, we need to be attentive, we need to be mindful, we need to spend most of our time, most of our energy, most of our waiting, have it in the present. By all means, have one foot in the past, one foot in the future, but we need to be fully here and now in order to make the most of our gift of life. And the last point that the author makes here and talks about is an exercise called the examen, something that was put together by St. Ignatius of Loyola. And it's a 5-step ritual where one expresses gratitude, reviews what they've done in their life, in their days, in their thoughts, talks about their regrets, and talks about and offers forgiveness and accepts grace. So once again, all of the building blocks that we want in life, especially for a Christian, I can only talk from a Christian perspective, all of the building blocks we already have in our culture, we have in our religion, where we're called to action, to love, we're called to action, to forgive others, to forgive ourselves, we're called to action, to sit and think and reflect on who we are, what we do, why we do it, and to have regrets, and to clear our heart, and to change our heart to do the things which are God-pleasing. And we're all called to experience and express gratitude and to thank God for all that we have, because all that we have are a gift from high, from Him. So there you go. So thank you very much for joining me on this episode of Jim's 5am Club. If you enjoy what you hear, if you find it empowering and helpful, I do have a YouTube channel which is jam-packed with thousands. This one here is number 1569, this episode, and I've got many other episodes similar to this, where I've taken other book summaries, I've talked about them, I've gone through and identified 2 or 3 points that we can use and learn, and I've also been able to overlay it and to supplement and complement what the author has been able to say in their books with other lessons that I've been able to accumulate by going through and doing, thousands of other books, and being able to once again add a little bit of value and just change and supplement the context and the message by the learnings that I've been able to pick up over time. Wishing you all the very best. Have a happy Thursday, and let's live, learn and pass it on. Live with passion and just try and serve God with all our heart, mind and soul, and love one another as we love ourselves. Yassas, take care, and bye for now.